Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 with Shawn Ray, Build with Pros. This episode is Mind over Muscle, how mental resilience builds champions. In this episode, Shawn Ray focuses on the power of the mind, the most critical muscle in any transformation. Listeners will hear how mental resilience, goal setting, consistency, and belief help Shawn overcome setbacks and stay locked in over decades. This session goes beyond reps and set. It's about the inner strength to keep showing up long after motivation fades. How are you, Shawn?
I'm good. I mean, that was well said, as a matter of fact.
Thank you so much. Before we just get into there's around seven questions or 7 topics we go over this. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit of a question I've got here is, people are often, and I think we're all, sometimes heading or going in a direction that we think is the right direction, but we haven't really invested in knowledge, as we said, mental resilience and learning. But we're willing to spend $50 on supplements that won't really help if their training isn't dialed in. But at the same time, the $50, they could get a full video collection with you and learn everything they need to truly maximize their potential. Why do you think people hesitate to invest in the video collection but don't think twice about buying supplements and being a bit naive?
Yeah, I think having something that you can touch and feel seems more valid for where you spend your money instead of, wisdom is something that you're going to have to digest, understand, comprehend, and then apply. If I get a thing and all I have to do is take a scooper and put it in a cup, shake it up and drink it, you think it's going to have some kind of anabolic steroidal type effect. And this is the placebo thing. If I take this every day, I know that I'm building my way to feeling and looking a certain way. Knowledge is something you have to be able to understand, digest, and then discern and apply. And these are things that you don't know when you're young. I didn't know about knowledge when I was young. For example, some of the lessons I had to learn the hard way. And my dad calls that the streets of hard knocks. You're gonna have to take your licks and to understand the lesson afterwards. But the further away you get from that introduction to that thing, and my introduction was bodybuilding, the further away I get and I start looking back, a lot of the things that I learned, I heard about when I started, but I really didn't understand. So it was very hard to apply initially. Because when you get that firsthand information verbally, if you're not dialed in and in tune with the delivery, you're going to forget 5 minutes after you walk out of the room. In my time coming up, the only thing I could learn was really from watching, not listening, but from watching. And I watched the performance. I watched the competition. I watched the end result. And some along the way, I watched some of the workouts, but hearing them talk wasn't something I was really interested in because everybody was different. Everybody had a different approach. Everybody had a different style. I wanted to see the majesty of the routine. I wanted to see the brutalness of the workout and then just copy them. And you think it just rubs off, and it doesn't. When you can actually hear the lesson being taught, and it's a firsthand lesson, if you can hear the lesson, you can go out and apply it. This isn't something that I bottle up and keep for myself. I'm regurgitating the lessons I learned from Joe Weider, from John Brown, from Kevin Levrone, from Flex Wheeler, from being on the stage with the greats, from being photographed by some of the best photographers in the world, by being interviewed from some of the best journalists that ever told the story of bodybuilding, and then from going to town in the gym, set after set, rep after rep, year after year, decade after decade. I've been there. So when I talk, I'm coming from a place of experience. And if you can watch it, listen, rewind it, play it over, that's why they have these things, and they call it the power of the mind. Where the mind takes you, your body can follow. There's a reason they have these lessons and tutorials and PowerPoints from people like Tony Robbins, for example. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm somebody that actually walked the walk. And again, one of my inspirations was a guy by the name of Mike Tyson. He wasn't a teacher. He was just a boxer. He was a pugilist that fought his way out of the ghetto to the highest of the highest and the lowest of the lows. But in watching him talk on his podcast and listening to him talk about his pitfalls and his victories and his journey, all of those things help apply to my bodybuilding approach. You ever hear the line where he says, "I'm the brutal, I'm the best. There's nobody's cut from my cloth. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. I want their heart." I mean, when you hear him talk with that kind of passion, and you play that on your way to the gym, on going to work out with your partners, for me it was applicable. It applied to me, and I'd go to the gym and I'd approach the weights the same way. Like the weights were my enemy. My training partner was my sparring partner, and I visioned myself being better, superior, and it would elevate my game. When you hear me talk about the passion of how I approach the weights, it's not a foreign language. I think it's relatable and it's applicable, and it will help you get there faster because you got to approach the weights with a certain mindset. You have to approach the stage with a certain mindset. You have to approach your workout with a certain mindset. Anyone can lift weights. The difference between a weightlifter and a bodybuilder on the highest level is the mindset. And I say the same thing about basketball. If I pick up a basketball, I'm doing the same thing Michael Jordan was doing. I'm doing the same thing that Kobe Bryant was doing. What separates us is the conviction in how we do it, the repetition of daily practice, and then challenging with the guys that were the best in the world that brought out the best in us. So the video series is me talking about me, my journey. So I was there. I'm assuming that's where you want to get, at least maybe motivationally speaking. Well, let me tell you how I did it. Let me show you the passion, the conviction, the sacrifice. And you can't get that by watching. You have to hear me speak. You have to know where my mind's at so it can help you get there mentally, and where the mind takes you, your body will follow. You never know what's in a book until you pick it up and you read it one page at a time. So Build With Pros is a book that doesn't really exist anymore because we're not reading the bodybuilding books. They don't make them anymore. So here we are in the digital age where you can actually fast track your progress listening from someone that's in the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, Lifetime Achievement Award winner, a professional at the highest degree for 13 consecutive years. How I did it. It's not impossible. It's not rocket science. But having Build With Pros in your pocket at your disposal will be the moral compass to your fitness journey in terms of what you should do, what you think you can do, and what's possible to do. For $50, you can get a wealth of knowledge here at Build With Pros. You're going to spend $50 just on a couple of workouts at the gym. You might spend $50 on some energy drinks or some supplements that you think are going to be real great for you for that moment. This is something for $50 that's going to last for a lifetime. And don't forget, get your 20% off by entering your discount code at MTP20.
You have to be educated and you have to listen, and definitely have to be a student. And I think this is exactly what this series allows us. So when we talk about mindset is the X factor, you call mindset the secret weapon in muscle building. Why do you believe mental resilience is the true foundation of long-term success?
Yeah, a lot of people will let go where others hold on. And this is a battle of survival, because you can lift weights by yourself and think you had a great workout. Then you go and train with the Mr. Olympia competitor, someone training to be the number one bodybuilder on the planet. The level of intensity is different. Again, I liken it to boxing. Mike Tyson had to pay his sparring partners to practice with him. Let me repeat that. There's fighters out there that want to fight to become champions, and they get a chance to fight and practice with Mike Tyson. They get in the ring with him and he beats the shit out of them. They don't want to go back to practice because it's too hard. He plays too hard. It's not a fight, it's practice. Well, the way you practice is the way you play. I got that real early. When I went to go to the gym and I worked out with John Brown, who introduced me to the sport, he wasn't practicing. He was in there beating the crap out of people, trying to put the distance between him and his partners, just so they realize not everybody can do this. This is not for everyone. You're not going to be a Mr. Universe or a Mr. World by just doing what I do. You've got to challenge me. You have to be able to out-train me. You've got to figure out how to recover between sets, because you know what? As soon as we finish this set, there's going to be another 10, 12, 13 to come. It doesn't get easier. If you get burnt out in the first set, on that first exercise for back, your mind will start playing tricks on you. Most people will want to quit because it's only going to get harder. So for me, my introduction to the game was, it's not a game. This is a business. And I was 17 and my mentor was 27. And he wasn't treating me like a boy. You want to be a bodybuilder? You want to train? You want to be like me? Come do what I do. And it wasn't enough just to try to mimic him. I didn't get his respect until I showed him I wouldn't quit. And I think anyone coming up behind me that wants to be better than me or on a higher level than me or go the places I've gone, and by the way, everything I've ever done in bodybuilding and also in life is a direct result of what I committed to bodybuilding. I was so locked in. Every workout counted, every rep counted. I threw up many times. I quit many times. I'm not ashamed to say that. But when I finally found my stride and I knew my reason why I was going to the gym, there was nobody that was going to come and train with me and have an enjoyable experience. It wasn't fun. This was, for me, an opportunity to show you you're not on my level. And you're not going to get on my level because I'm going to try to stay 10 steps ahead of you by making you quit, by making you throw up, by showing you who's boss, by showing you who's the Olympian. It is a mental mindset that on every given occasion, when I had to train with someone new, that my goal was to make them quit or throw up. And that is really a different approach from going to the gym to work out, to have fun, to try to get big. It's a different approach.
Very much so. I'm already just listening to that. I'm questioning myself. I'm thinking I've got to pay a bit more attention to the Bill with Pros. I've got to dial in. I've got to dial in.
You got to dial in.
I've got to dial in. Setbacks aren't the end. They're really the fuel. The fuel. You said some of your greatest victories came right after devastating losses. How do setbacks prepare someone for greatness? Can you share a specific time where a setback nearly took you out, but ended up launching you to the next level?
Yeah, I think we've all been there. We covered that.
Yes.
We kind of covered it in our last conversation when I was doing the junior nationals and Eddie Robinson beat me. I think nobody looks forward to being set back, but we know there's a time period for everything. And when you put your heart into something and you dedicate your time to it, look, when you come into high school as a freshman, time just passes by. And if you do what you're supposed to do, in 4 years, you're going to graduate high school. Some people will go on to college and do it all over again, another 4 years, and they'll be celebrated for their accomplishment of not quitting and not giving up. It's just a matter of time. Bodybuilding is different because you can spend your whole adult life trying to attain professional status, and it never happens. It's a select few actually get that. Then when you get there, you're a pro, and you think in your mind, I'm a professional at what I do. I should be getting paid. I should be making money. I should be compensated. I'm an elite of the elite. I'm a professional. If you're a professional football player, baseball player, basketball player, they're getting paid if you're a pro. In bodybuilding, it's one of the unique sports. You can be a professional and not make any money. And so this is not something you get into to try to make money. I didn't become a bodybuilder to make money. I became a bodybuilder to try to be the best in the world. That always stayed with me. And I never lost sight of the journey. So I knew along the way, there's going to be other bodybuilders better than me, more mature, more experienced, bigger, whatever it is. But I know that I can only control this. The judges are going to decide what happens on the stage. The one thing I had control over was progress in the gym, progress with my weights, progress with my nutrition, progress with my size, progress with how I feel. I can find ways to make money as a businessman in bodybuilding because they're plentiful. And I think there's more ways to make money now where you don't even have to compete. Back in those days, I found a way to make it work, and I wasn't chasing the dollar. I continued to chase the dream. I wanted to be Mr. Olympia. The small setbacks of getting beat by some of the best bodybuilders in the world, Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Vince Taylor, Nasser El Somebody, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, Lee Haney, getting beat by those guys was not as devastating after it happened when you go home and you let it digest because you know their pedigree. They have a track record. Those guys are beating everybody. And we all took turns beating each other. But the one thing that wasn't happening for me was I wasn't getting number one in the Olympia. And so that's where I had to step back and be very realistic about the setback. 5th place in the world. Am I supposed to be crying? I remember when I used to just want to be a professional. I'm fifth place in the Mr. Olympia. Work my ass off for a whole year, go back, and I move myself up to 4th place. I'm 4th place in the Olympia. I'm trying to figure out where I'm supposed to feel sorry or bad. Then I move up to 3rd place. Then I get 2nd place. Then I drop down to 3rd place. Then I go to 4th place. Then I go to 5th. I fight my way back up to 2nd again. So when it was all over, I had 2 2nd places, 3 3rd places, 3 4th place finishes, 3 5th place finishes. I'm trying to realize where I was supposed to feel sorry for myself. I spent 12 consecutive years in the top 5. I looked at that as this is me, a work in progress. It's how you interpret the setback. Yeah, when you go from 3rd to 5th, you're not going in the right direction. But I fought my way back up to 2nd again. So it gave me purpose as I was going back and forth, 2nd to 5th place all those years. And I never felt disappointing. You said setbacks. You get a check on that stage from the guy that created bodybuilding, Joe Weider, and you look around and you realize this is the Olympia. It's the Super Bowl. It's the Wimbledon. It's the NBA Final 2. I was in the best of the best, and I knew where I was at. So when I got defeated, and I had to go back another year, I understood. I just have to go back to work. I have to work harder. I have to diet more. I have to train more. So I didn't look at my setbacks as defeats. I looked at them as challenges. And that's the reason I was able to do it for as many years as I did. Because today, you will not see that type of run. I don't think anyone competing in the Mr. Olympia right now is going to be there for 13 years, continuing to fight. They don't have the staying power. The mentality is not there because the defeat is so brutal. It's so devastating that after 3 or 4 tries, 5 tries, they just disappear. They fall away.
I think what I'm hearing and thinking to myself is, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, 13 years. I mean, it's just remember that number, 13 years of resilience, 13 years of obtaining knowledge, 13 years of bettering yourself, top 5, then obviously getting to number 2, and then sliding a little bit, but then bouncing back to number 2. I mean, if Built with Pros doesn't give you that, and also at an amateur, maybe a professional level, I mean, I don't know why they're not investing in understanding that process to do it again. Because like you said, you don't know that, you ain't going to see it again, because this is very rare.
Yeah. And, I didn't realize how rare it was until
rare.
I was probably 10 years in retirement.
Yeah.
Because now I'm hearing things like some guys need to address their mental health before they get back on stage.
It's true.
There was no mental.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as mental health. You either do it or you don't. You shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
And for the weak guys, you got to get out of the way. Move over, let the strong guys fight. So I did not come from the background where there was a place to feel sorry for myself. I didn't come from the background that they're against me. It's not them, it's me. I'm in control of me. And I think that mental toughness for me that I was trying to apply physically and on the stage, it carried over into other aspects of my life. Because I told you, everything I've ever done is as a result of what I did on that stage. But what I wasn't getting on the stage, I was creating off the stage. So this is what you don't see. This is what you don't hear when you get involved with the sport, is that it made me mentally tough and more resilient, seeking sponsorships, hearing the words no. When they say no, I'm hearing not right now.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Of course.
I'm hearing I'll be back. I'll try again later, maybe next year.
Not
I don't
now.
no, yeah, not now. So I was able to transfer that in other ways in my career, and it's taken me all over the world as a result. It didn't make me feel sorry, didn't take me into the gutter, didn't make me depressed. And in the fraternity of guys we had to lean on, we were able to communicate with each other and maybe support each other because there was a smaller fraternity back then.
Yes.
We have a lot more people out there that are everybody gets a pro card today.
Everyone gets a pro card.
So, but nobody knows who these athletes are, because you can get a pro card in your first try. You can get a pro card your first show. It's very saturated. You don't have to learn along the way and take your lumps and earn that. So easy now for people to go pro, but once they go pro, it's the end of the line, right? It's over for them. When I came up, if you got a pro card, you had a career. And the guys I came up with 10, 12, 13, 14, 20 years in Dexter's case, you could make a life out of it. Now it's a little bit different. It's shorter career, more mental instability, more self doubt, and more saturation of the divisions.
I think, like everybody, you can't become the CEO of a company if you don't start in the mailroom or touch on every other department to understand departments. And I think in bodybuilding, you've got to do your time. And again, like I said, if you're not willing to invest in the knowledge and of those that have walked the walk, and hopefully allow you to still walk the walk, but walk with confidence, I don't know why they wouldn't. Like I said, I'm sure many will want to invest in this. Why confidence comes from consistency. You talk about small daily victories, the meals, the training, the prep. How do these build unshakable confidence? What's your message to someone who doesn't feel confident yet, but is putting in the work?
Question. Well, the confidence, like you said, does come from putting in the work. When a guy is working hard and he's not getting the results he wants right away, you have to remember, the old phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built, right? It's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. If you don't have, and everyone's starting at different points. I was 17. Most of these guys are starting in their 20s, late 20s. I was an early retirement at 35, 36 from the stage. Most guys are still hanging in there or just getting started. The game has changed. But you cannot monitor your progress because you're not getting what you want right away. Again, stimulate, don't annihilate. If things aren't working for you right now, change up. Sometimes you have to change gyms. Sometimes you have to change training partners. Sometimes you have to change your diet. It's not so much chicken, maybe eat some more beef. Maybe switch from the beef, eat a little bit more fish. Maybe incorporate more complex carbohydrates into your diet, maybe more vegetables. The whole thing is a process of experimentation, exploration. And as an artist, that's another word we keep coming back to, you can't play the same chords. You've got to be willing to change things up and be receptive to different styles of training. Again, I was brought in the most brutal way. I got beat up. It was too much volume. It was not enough recovery. It was too heavy a weights, and I wasn't growing. And it wasn't until I got away from my mentor who introduced me to bodybuilding that suddenly I started to grow, because I wasn't able to train twice a day like he was and do my whole body 6 days in a row like he was. Again, 27, 6'2", 250 pounds. I was 17 years old. 160 pounds tripping wet. I wasn't eating enough calories to keep up with someone like that. He was too big and he was too strong. When he was gone and I slowed things down, I was able to put some weight on my body. I was able to decrease the volume. So some people equate training hard with training heavy. And that's not the same thing. Some people could equate training hard with doing volume, and that's not always the best. So that's why you have room for training philosophers like Mike Mincer, who believe less is more. And then you have guys like John Brown who believe more is better. You have to find what works for you because the bodies are all different. You might be a 6 foot bodybuilder who's 25 years old and you're just getting started, or you might be a 5'7" bodybuilder who's 17, just getting started. Your starting point has a lot to do with your progress as well. Because a teenager full of hormones is still going through that phase of developing. A 25, 27-year-old person may be at a different disadvantage because they're fully developed. You can only do so much with what you have. The beautiful thing about our sport is there's something for everyone. Your reality and your perception of how great you could potentially be as a 25, 30-year-old person may not include the Mr. Olympia. Maybe it just includes becoming Mr. Sydney, Mr. Australia. You don't have to have the same I don't want to say zest, because I think you have to have the zest for it. You don't have to have the same do or die commitment as a 17, 18, 19-year-old who's got the whole world in front of him and can buy into the dream that if he just does the work, he could wind up on the Olympia stage. It's harder to believe a 27, 28, 29-year-old starting is going to wind up on the Mr. Olympia. It's very rare that you actually see a late bloomer jump in there with these young guys. So you have to know your goals. You have to know what's realistic and start with your level of development. And when I came up as a teenager, I competed in the teenage division. When I became a junior at 20, I competed as a junior with juniors. When I became 21, I competed in the open, and I competed against anybody that lifted weights at that stage because it's for men. It's like 21 years old, you can go in a bar and you can drink beer if you want to. The difference is I never measured myself against the people that were there. I could only measure myself with where I was at, my economy. So there's different levels, there's different steps in taking pictures, looking at your videos, studying it. This is not something that happens overnight. This is something where you have to monitor, and you have to have mentors. You have to check in with other people, make sure you're staying on the right path. And the best way for me was looking and asking for advice from people that had been where I wanted to go. I didn't ask the gym manager who's working the front desk, who's never been on a bodybuilding stage, how do I look? What do you think? I would seek out someone that was more experienced than me to get the professional opinion that's trusted, right? Because they've been there. That's how I work, right? If I want to be a singer, I don't necessarily want to go to the vocal coach. Maybe I want to go to a singer to find out what the process is like. Some people have natural voices. Others have to develop a voice. Well, even the best singers sometimes have a vocal coach that puts them through the bars and the keys and gives them the practice. As beautiful as their notes sound, a coach can make you sound a little bit better. But I didn't start off with a coach. I started off with a guy that just beat the crap out of me and wanted me to quit. So sometimes you got to get broken so that your ego gets moved aside, and then now you're receptive to the lesson that we were talking about earlier. I thought I knew everything. I was an MVP on football. I was Billy Badass on campus. I had a little bit of muscle to me, but I was introduced by a bodybuilder who had a great pedigree. He needed to humble me. So I got humbled, and then I was more receptive to learning. So talking to people that have been where you want to go is more mentally, I think, the best route to go than to talk to somebody that's just trying to get in your pocket.
I think as well, we spoke about wisdom, and just before we go to the next question, because it is about surrounding yourself with the right people. I think what Built with Pros, but what you offer is you've done the journey, and you know where there's obstacles, you know where, let's say in the journey, where the potholes are, you know where we know what's coming next, where you might become complacent, and what you're offering, or what is offered, and what you have, and what people should embrace is that you're going to have to do the work, but I can show you a bit of the straight line. I can get you to move quicker, to not have to do the mistakes, the pitfalls, and be educated. You'll create your own education as you become wiser. We all do.
Yeah.
But most importantly, that's what it's about. It's about let's not get you caught up in the traps that we got caught up in, or what you got caught up in, and let me help you do some leaps and bounds and do the time, and also have some patience.
Well, I think it's better than reading a book.
Yes.
I think it's better than sitting in a classroom.
Yes.
You're hearing it firsthand from somebody that's been there.
Yes.
You know, I think these over here in America, we have the NFL for football.
Yes.
The college players, when they go through their summer workouts and they're working with professionals that are there, a large part of their introduction to the next level is from other players that played the game.
That's right.
The quarterbacks are throwing the ball, the receivers are running the routes, and they're teaching these guys and preparing these guys for the life that they lived, because they lived it. They played it. In this industry, there is a need for guys like myself that have been in the trenches to share what it's like, what to expect, what you can anticipate. And I encourage people, don't stop at Build with Pros and stay there. Keep going. The more information you can get from other people, the more sound you're going to be, not only conversationally when you start talking to other people, but to compare and contrast styles. In boxing, they say styles make fights. You have the slugger, you have the boxer, and then you have the guy that kind of plays chess, right? They do both. Muhammad Ali was a beautiful boxer. He could pick you apart. Mayweather, very defensive, elusive fighter, hard to hit, but he'd catch you when you let your defense down. Mike Tyson, a pit bull. He was a brawler. There was no real only speed he knew was straight ahead and brawl and see who would quit first. In bodybuilding, I said it was an art form and it's a marathon and all these other adjectives I like to use. I say get as much information from as many places as you can. Yeah, Build with Pros is great because you're hearing it from me. But compare the other guys' journeys. They're just as interesting. No one, I think, has a beeline, even if you're talking to 8-time Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney or Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates. They're far and few between people that are like Dorian, Ronnie, and Lee Haney. There's 3 of them. Their styles are all different because they're from different eras. Ronnie, being the biggest and the strongest of the 3, would run circles around Lee Haney. And Lee Haney won 8 as well. Yeah. And Dorian Yates' blood and guts style of training, which less is more for him, that style of training would never work for me. So that's why I encourage people. I personally didn't stop at John Brown, and I think that's what made me a complete bodybuilder. I sought out information and styles from other bodybuilders that were doing what I wanted, I wanted to do, by seeking out the magazines and their videos. I didn't get the firsthand information because they lived in different countries and different places, but I sought out the information that I would go to the gym and I'd apply it.
I love that. Surrounding yourself with the right people. You said your friends knew when you were dieting and they helped hold you to it. How important is support during a transformation? Why should people look for or avoid in the people around them when chasing a big goal?
Well, when I say friends, and I had very few as I was competing, I kept my circle very small. I wasn't the life of the party because I wasn't out at the parties. But the few friends I had knew what I was trying to do. They knew as a teenager what I wanted to be. And my friends didn't change. My friends today are still my friends I went to high school with. But yeah, they were on notice because they knew the time of the year that the Olympia was coming up. They just assumed Shawn's getting ready. You know, he's got his chicken breast, he's got his baked potato, he's got his bananas with him. Yeah. And it set me apart from people. I was protected by my friends because they said, no, Shawn, you can't come. We're going to McDonald's. We'll catch up with you after we eat, right? So when your friends and your people around you understand what you're trying to do, they should help support and protect you. If they are not, and they're encouraging you to do the things that they're doing, which are counterproductive to what you're trying to be, then those aren't the friends that you need on this journey. Because again, I chose this for me. I don't expect them to adapt and change their eating habits and their lifestyle. But what's good about my friends is that they would adapt to mine. You know, oh, we're going out. Sean's on a diet. He can't come. We'll tell you all about it tomorrow. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel like my friends were dragging me into places that were going to be contrary to what I was trying to do. And listen, partying that is not a negative. Partying is a celebration. It's fun. Um, and some of my friends would check in and say, "Hey, we're going to a party. We know you can't come. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow." I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel like I was being left out, because the sacrifice for me was they had my best interest at hand. Those are the kind of friends I have to this day. And it's not punishment by not being able to go out, stay out late, eat whatever I want. My reward would come when my show's over, and I'd catch up with those guys, and we'd go out and do our little party and have fun. But there's a time and a season. And in bodybuilding, when you're getting ready for something as big as getting on stage, that is not the time to be going out and trying to have fun and testing your willpower, and then trying to challenge your mental mindset. Like, I deserve this, or how come I can't have that? I didn't question it. I just put it over here. I'm on season. I got 3 months to do this. And when the mission's over, I can go and do whatever I want to do. That's the mentality of a soldier. When they call you up to active duty, your life changes, because you're plucked out of your home. You're plucked away from your family and your friends. And now you're a part of the government. And the government tells you what you're going to do, where you're going to be, when you're going to be deployed. And in bodybuilding, for me, when it was time to get ready for a show, I was a soldier at war in my mind. And so I was different. I was no longer a civilian. I was no longer, my temperament, my approach was very militant, very structured, very timed, and very regimented, very much like a soldier. And I think when you get your mind in that space, it's very hard for someone to come in and break you and pull you out of that mindset when you're looking at the calendar and you know you got weeks to go until the fight. And I want to win the war. You know, I want to take out as many people as I can along the way. And I'm going to treat them like they're the enemy in the gym, so to speak. And I'm going to isolate myself. I'm going to be very isolated. I'm going to keep to myself. I'm going to dot the I, cross the T, get my sleep, wake up early, get my reps in, go to bed early. That's the life of a soldier. And there's no people coming into the barracks and pulling them out to take their mindset off of the mission. And so when you're up against somebody like that, it's going to be hard to beat them, because for me, thinking I'm a soldier at war, it's hard to break my mindset. It's hard to get me off my game plan, and that repetitious behavior and that warlike mentality made me a formidable competitor, because I knew I was small. I knew I was short. I knew I wasn't heavy. I knew I wasn't the biggest. But if I could just do the work in a very structured manner, my friends would appreciate giving me the space, and then they can celebrate the reward along with me afterwards. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than being up there, battling with the best in the world, and then you're on the magazine, or you're on television, or you walk into the room and your friends are clapping. I mean, you know, once you get a little taste of that, it becomes very addicting. Like I wanted more. And so I knew that doing what I was doing in the structure that I was doing it, that's why I was having success.
Knowing your, like you said, surround yourself with the right people, or knowing your circle. But like you said, not everyone has to be the front line, but you need to know when you come back that they're there when you need to lock and load, when you need to restock. You know, whatever you're going to do for a battle, they're ready to open the door and say, see you soon, and let you go and do what you need to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's not happy for their friend that's committed to something? When you go to a graduation, and you see all the guys wearing the gowns and the caps, the people in the stands, when that person gets his name called, everybody that cares about that person pours into them.
Yeah, you have to,
because we know it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's not.
And the bodybuilding show for an athlete, that's the graduation, right? I mean, this is where you're getting your recognition and your you're getting your flowers, so to speak. And it doesn't always have to be first place, right? We celebrate the guy who lost 20 pounds. We celebrate the guy who's doing their very first competition. We're celebrating the 50-year-old who's doing a master's competition. We're celebrating the guy that's competing against the best in the world and only got 7th or 8th place. So the show is it's not the gallows, right? When the contest is over, this is when we get to go out and party and drink and celebrate your sacrifice and your commitment to all of this. And you look, as a bodybuilder, you look forward to that. Like my shows brought friends and family together in a way that they would never have been able to cross paths.
Yeah.
Right there. My friends that knew me from different gyms I trained at, my friends that knew me from different countries and states that I visited, my family. When the show came around, it was me that brought all these people together to clap all at once that's being celebrated. So there's a lot of smaller victories, even in defeat, that an athlete has got to prepare their mind for. That for me, losing was not an embarrassment. For me, losing was another reason why I would have to come back and do it again. But the process of the show, the celebration of the show, is the culmination of a sacrifice of a period of my life, a portion of time that all of my family and friends had to endure. And now we can all breathe easy and celebrate the fact that I came out, unscathed, right? I'm alive, I'm healthy, and I'm going to do it again next year.
I love that. I love that. Well, it's obviously the champion's mindset, winning before you step on stage. You said I didn't get into this to lose. What kind of mindset does someone need, Shawn, to develop to win before they even compete? How do you train yourself to expect success without being arrogant? I think I fight with that too.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, look, when we talk about the word art, it's all open to interpretation. Yeah. This is a subjective sport of opinion. Mm-hmm. If I'm running 100 meters, the clock is going to be very definitive. 9.8, 9.5, 9.6, 9.7. It's going to tell you exactly what you want, and only one person can win, right? That's right. Unless you tie. When we look at art, it's all open to interpretation. So even the guy in the Mr. Olympia that gets last place is revered more than the guy that could never qualify to get to the Mr. Olympia, because you have to qualify to get to the Mr. Olympia. So even though you're last, you know how many other people couldn't even make it to the Mr. Olympia? So you have to have context and you have to have perspective so that the Olympia is considered the best in the world. You have to qualify. You're not invited to the Olympia, and there's no way to get in unless you qualify. And there's shows all around the world all year long, and only a select number of people will make it to the Mr. Olympia. When I was coming up, the biggest show, I think we had 24. But I competed in the Olympia when there was 14 guys, 16 guys, 17, 20 people. Now you get 30, 38, 50, 40 guys on stage. Such an elite number of people can get there. So I prepared myself as I got my qualification, my mind, I prepared myself that I may not win this show, but I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm one of the best in the world, and the world knows that I'm one of the best in the world. As a teenager bodybuilding, that was everything. Forget about being Mr. Olympia. Everything for me, I just wanted to be initially Teenage America, because that's my friend said that I could be that, and I didn't think so. Then I wanted to be then I wanted to be Mr. California. I became Mr. California, and wow. Then I wanted to be the national champion. I became the national. Then I wanted to be a pro. Then I wanted to be in the Olympia. Then I wanted to become Mr. Olympia. And as you mature, you realize it's such an ambitious goal. It's like saying I want to be the MVP in the NBA. I mean, it just rolls off your tongue. But you know how many people are playing basketball around the world? Basketball is an international sport. There can only be one MVP in the league. It's very elite. And saying that I want to be Mr. Olympia, you have to speak it into existence, right? But the odds are against you. Now I've been removed 23, 24 years from the Mr. Olympia stage, and I can look at some of the guys and think, if he was He's Mr. Olympia. If he was in my era, there's no way he could be Mr. Olympia. But like everything, there's a time and a season. If I was 10 years younger, if I was 20 years younger, listen, now I recognize if I was 20 years younger, I'd be 40 years old. I'd be older than when I retired bodybuilding. I got this delusion that if I were competing today, I could be Mr. Olympia. But here's the thing, the criteria has changed. The criteria for what we look at as Mr. Olympia is vastly different than when I was competing. And so when I was competing, trying to become Mr. Olympia, I had to understand that I'm in an era that is still revered today. I'm talking Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, and Ronnie Coleman. When you talk about Mr. Olympia, those three are arguably the greatest we've ever had in our sport. And that, sorry, Arnold, you're not in that group because I don't think Arnold could beat either of those three. I came up behind those three. And so I have to recognize that as an artist, that era, there was no room for being an artist. It was the mass area, right? I mean, Lee Haney might be the closest to being an artist, but that was the era that we ushered in the mass monsters. They were never as big as they were back when I was coming up. So I'm okay with it now. But in the throes of competing, there has to be a moment of clarity that says, I may not be Mr. Olympia, but don't say that to yourself, that I always believed that I could. So I never said it out loud. If you asked me, Shawn, do you think you'd be Mr. Yeah, you're damn right. I think I could be Mr. Olympia. But I don't control that. The judges do. It is a subjective sport of opinion. It's 100% out of my control. I was mature enough to understand that I don't control that aspect of what I was doing. And so this is where the artist comes in. I can control everything else. And so I didn't fall apart at the idea that I wasn't Mr. Olympia. I rose to the occasion that it seemed like, at least for me, what I was hearing, the majority of the people would rather look like I did than what Mr. Olympia looked like, because it looked more attainable. It looked more athletic. It looked more aesthetic. And I heard that enough that I can say that confidently. That made me feel good. That made me feel good because I could never look like Dorian, and nor would I want to. I could never be Ronnie Coleman, and doing the things that Ronnie Coleman, I could never achieve those things. But the people in Mexico, the people in Italy, the people in Germany, the smaller people in South America, they were my number one fans. They thought I was the guy. They thought that, they related to me more. I was more relatable. That for me made it a little easier to deal with losing.
I think as well, you mentioned today, but 1,000 steps starts with a step.
Yes.
And to do, and as you mentioned, the three, to do those years, 13 years, and possibly, could we ever see that again? Well, I guess if you want to see it again, you're going to have to go back to the archives of these people that did it and pick their brains, because they did it. It's not that it was done. It doesn't mean records can't be broken. Records are set to be broken, but you need to go and that's, as you mentioned, in the NBA, in the NFL, they bring those elite athletes into training the next level and tell them what it's like. I mean, I guess Built with Pros does that too. It takes you to know, well, we're going to have to start somewhere, aren't we? And if you want to know, you're going to have to pick my brains, or you're going to have to hear it from me. And I think that's where it is. I think many don't want to, or maybe aren't understanding it's the initial step. And I think, like I said, with Built with Pros, it gives you that the 1,000 steps that you need to take, but where you need to start.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you nailed it in a nutshell. Like, again, I think that if I were trying to become an airline pilot, I want to learn from somebody that's actually flown a plane.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Yes,
right.
That's exactly.
And so
right.
that's what I try to share with the guys. Like, listen, as hard as it is, we have lots and lots of people that are bodybuilders. We don't have a whole lot of success stories of consistency in bodybuilding, because people are letting go when they should be holding on.
Oh, yeah.
And they need to hear from somebody that knows how to hold on. And I thought, I held on for a very long time against all odds. I didn't pick the name giant killer for myself. People were calling me a giant killer because everybody was bigger than me. I was slaying the dragons. That came from a level of persistency that has a lot more to do with my mindset, my will, my drive, than it had to do with me being lucky. This is not a sport of luck. This is skill. This is perseverance. This is being tenacious, disciplined, and here to share those that wisdom that I learned through actually applying the time that I put in the time.
I'll go with one more saying. A true captain of the ship, or most can believe they're great captains sailing calm seas, but the true essence of a great captain is sailing turbulent seas to be able to take on what Mother Nature puts before you. And I guess with bodybuilding, it's the same thing.
Amen. Yeah, identical.
Yeah,
Because you're going to have your good days and bad days.
100%.
Listen, it's a physical sport, right?
Yeah.
Forget about the mental side. It's still physical.
Yeah.
You got to train when you're sore. You got to train when you're sick. You got to recover, and you got to get back up there. And sometimes you don't see the enemy, and you just see yourself, and you got to use your imagination. So yeah, even in the bad times, the challengers are still fighting to become champions.
100%. Using visualization and self-talk. You talk about visualization or visualizing victory and controlling your self-talk. What does that look like in your daily prep? How does someone change the voice in their head? I mean, I want to know that too. From fear and doubt, but even questioning to belief and drive.
I can tell you, it doesn't come in when you're busy in preparation. I ate every 3 hours. And so to do that, you've got to be meticulous and watch the clock. So I would eat 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. To do that, you have to set your clock. I wasn't running back and forth seeing what time it was. I set a timer, had a clock that went off every 3 hours, and it was time for me to eat something. So I had to prepare meals in advance and put them in Tupperware, put them in the refrigerator. They just throw them in the microwave and warm them up. But it was time for me to eat. No matter where I was, I knew it was time for me to eat because I was told my body could absorb so much protein and blah, blah, blah every 3 hours. That was my discipline. And if I'm that disciplined, I'm going to get my calories in. I'm not going to skip meals because I was busy. I was in the movies. I was too far away from home. I didn't have a kitchen. I didn't have my food with me. If my alarm went off at that time, every 3 hours, it was time to pull over and grab some food or break open the kitchen, open a refrigerator and break it out. So that level of discipline is going to give me a distinct advantage over the guy that thinks, I'll eat when I'm hungry. Because I can eat a big meal and 4 or 5 hours can go by very easily. Because not only do you have to eat, was I eating every 3 hours, but I was also drinking a lot of fluid, and that fills you up, suppresses your appetite. So you forget to eat. And when you train really hard, you get really tired, and sometimes you get sleepy. And so now you're too tired to eat. And then going to the gym in that state, you're just not getting enough calories to grow. So I was feeding the muscles every 3 hours, and I was getting my naps, and I was getting my 6 to 8 hours of sleep. That's discipline. And when you have that kind of discipline, it's going to open doors for you somewhere down the road. My doors were being opened in the form of a rocket ride to the Mr. Olympia at 22 years old. And then for another decade or so after that. So people say, wow, how did it work for you? I was disciplined. So you have to be disciplined in your eating, in your sleeping, in your training, in mapping out the preparation for competition. It just doesn't happen by wishful thinking. Oh, I train every single day and I never miss a workout. How much food are you eating? I eat a lot of food. Well, how many meals did you have? Today I only had 3. Well, I had twice what you ate. I have twice as much strength. In my mind, I should be twice as strong as you too. And I should be recovered more than you because you know what I did after I ate? I went and laid down. I had a nap. I let my body recover and grow. So there's a certain commitment that some athletes have that other athletes will never understand, because they think lifting weights is the way to go. And lifting weights is, anybody can lift weights. Those were tools for me to sculpt, shape, create, build, and tear down. I knew what I was trying to do when I went in the gym, because I was studying it in the magazines, what I wanted to look like. I didn't go in the gym hoping for big arms. I studied what do I want my arms to look like? And I'm looking at Robbie Robinson, Albert Beckles, and Boyer Coe. I had examples of when I'm training what I want to look like. So my mind was taking me places that only my body could do, but the food and the fuel and the rest of recovery would allow me to do those things. So the disciplined bodybuilder has an advantage.
Oh, I love that. God, I'm just thinking to myself all that, and still today, what we can apply, what I can apply, what we all can apply. Finding motivation without validation. You said you can win without a trophy if you're better than your last self. How can people stop chasing outside validation? What should process really look like or feel like when nobody's clapping yet?
Well, what progress should look like
Yes.
is I'm not in competition with the others, because I don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. In 1994, I was training for the Mr. Olympia. The previous year, I was third. Flex Wheeler was second, and Dorian had won his second Olympia in 1993. Now I'm training for the 1994 Mr. Olympia. I know I've got to go through Flex, and I've got to go through Dorian if I'm going to get to where I want to go. Along the way, Flex Wheeler gets in a car accident, breaks his neck. He's out of the competition. It wasn't a time for me to rejoice and celebrate, because Flex was my friend, could have died, and it could have been me. I could have been riding in the car with him. Dorian Yates tears his bicep and shows up heavy, a little bit sloppy, and not very prepared as he was in 1993. The door is open. I'm prepared. I've done everything I can do. The cards are set in my favor. That opportunity for me to go from third place to second place presented itself because I was prepared. I didn't know those two things were going to happen to either of those bodybuilders. The 94 Olympia's still talked about as a very debatable loss for me, and a very lopsided victory for Dorian, because he'll tell you he wasn't at his best and he felt very grateful to win.
Yeah.
But the only reason that conversation happens is because I did everything I could do, be prepared to win against two juggernauts, because it was supposed to be Flex and Dorian in the rematch, but I wound up coming up there. So I prepare myself as if it's going to be my contest to lose. I wasn't worried about what was going to happen with Dorian or with Flex. But on any given day, something could have happened to me. If something was going to happen to me, I didn't want something to happen to me because I wasn't on the road to the Olympia, right? Everything I was doing was preparing me for being ready and prepared. And again, coming a whisker away from victory, not wishing any ill will on Dorian, that could have been my moment in the sun. And it would have been conditional, maybe had some asterisks, who knows? But you can only win if you prepare. So I can't be focused on all these other guys' habits, injuries, or readiness, because then it takes my mind off of what I got to do. So there's not enough hours in the day to worry about what Flex was doing, or Kevin, or what Ronnie or Jay. Focus on myself, and the hours and the time flies by like that. It's nighttime comes so quick, and then the morning sun comes up so fast, and I got to get my meals in. So when I'm focused on me, I don't have time to worry and anticipate what's happening with my competition.
So you're not worried about what they're not doing. You're not worried about them not turning up their best, and you're not worrying about them not turning up at all. All you worry about is turning up your best.
Well, worrying can take you out of the show.
Right.
It can take you out of the competition, because you start second guessing how good you are. Did I do enough? And are they going to be looking like this? Mm-hmm. And what if? And you cannot worry about it if you are focused on yourself, your art, your music, because this is my music, right? Then I know every chord to hit. I never know every key to hit. And so my readiness will come in the form of the perfect tan, the perfect balance, the perfect definition, the perfect routine. The more in tune I am with myself,
Hmm.
the harder I make it for them.
Yeah, most definitely, most
Yeah.
definitely. Um, Turning fitness into a lifestyle, not a phase. You talk about being a grandfather now and still grinding. How has your mental approach evolved with your life stages? What's your advice for someone juggling fitness with family, career with real life?
Well, coming from that level of competition, you have to really center yourself and dumb it down.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm coming back from the war. I survived the war.
Yep.
I don't have any injuries. I don't have any gunshots. I'm okay. But my mind, I had to slow down what I'm trying to do with my body because my body wants to run.
Yeah.
My body wants to go. My body's used to being beat up. My body's used to, it's a well-oiled machine. I'm used to going to war. But my mind says, don't train, exercise. Which means I'm coming back to civilization. These people around me are civilians. These aren't soldiers. These aren't enemy. They're not warriors. I have to dumb down my mentality, especially when I go into the weight room, because I'm not at war anymore. All right. I'm at peace. I'm at peace and I need movement. I need flexibility. I need, uh, I need to make sure that everything is going to be operational, and I don't want to tear, pop, break, or injure anything. So back off the weights. I'm still doing very similar exercises. I don't train with people because that brings out the animal in me, right?
Yeah.
If I train with you, you might take me somewhere I don't want to go.
I'd love to do
And,
it.
and,
I'd like
and,
to just
and
be a
yeah,
part
well,
of it
here's
for a
here's
moment.
that's the problem is as soon as you bring out the animal in me, and we're going to go back to that place, and that's where I might get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So instead, I keep reminding myself I just need my own exercise because now on this side of the fence, in the grandfather side, it's not about how I look, it's how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's a different type of a mentality. And if I'm going to feel good, I need to be able to touch my hands to my toes. I need to know that my core is flexible. I need to know that I can play with my grandchildren. I need to know that I can run if I have to. I need to know that I can walk long distances if I have to in the airports and whatnot. So I think flexibility and mobility has always been a part of my life from all the childhood sports I played. Um, but I don't think you just pasture out yourself into retirement to do absolutely nothing. I'm an athlete. I'm in the health and wellness space. I'm into physical fitness, but I'm not a bodybuilder per se. I will always be one in my mind, but my body, to keep that level up, I have to ask myself for what? I'm no longer in pursuit of being the best in the world. So I imagine you would compare that to going to a job that you get paid to do from 9 to 5. And then after 30 years, or for my case in bodybuilding, after 20 plus years, I retire. I don't think that they expect me to show up to that 9 to 5 and continue with the same energy for free.
Mm.
I don't get paid to bodybuild anymore. That was my job. There's a difference. I was a professional bodybuilder that got paid to compete against the best in the world. That door's closed. Those days are over. So I'm not going to go out there and do it for free and run the risk of getting injured. So rather, I go out there and do it for my health because we only have one body in this life. We don't know how many days we're going to be on this planet. I
Mm.
might as well look and feel the best I can. So just dumb down the intensity, cut back on the quantity of calories because I no longer have to be big. And in my mind, I understand that. I'm not going to be big if I'm not eating a lot of food. I'm not going to be big if I'm not training with heavy weights. I'm not going to be big if I'm not regimented on my fitness. So get that out of your head.
Mm.
I'm a person who puts his pants on one leg at a time. So I'm not going to look the same way because I'm not trying to be that person. And I have to understand that my perception from other people who've seen me a certain way my entire life might kind of go, wow, what happened? It's not an ego thing with me. My ego's been long retired. I'm happy with where I'm at, leaning out, feeling flexible, little bit athletic looking. I'm not embarrassed of my look, but I no longer feel the urgency or the need to look in the mirror and monitor what was. It's gone. That movie is over. Those days have gone. And I don't try to make the comparison, right? That was another life. That was another person. And I think all of the bodybuilders on this side of the fence have to come to that realization that when that door is closed, I don't have any ambition to go back there. Some guys struggle. They want to go back and forth and get on TRT and have one more try, and they spend their life in the gym. I never wanted to be that guy chasing that dream. That dream is over for me. So now I would like to be along for the ride with somebody else's dream and be a part of that. And then maybe I can help. It only takes one person. And if I latch on to that one person, I can feel that fire come back to be, along for the ride, kind of like the retired boxer who becomes a cornerman, and he finds that prize fighter and he can go back and watch that prize fighter become the champ. I wouldn't mind helping someone go all the way, but I don't want to go. I've already been there.
Well, when we talk about movies, I mean, Clint Eastwood, an amazing actor. We can't have him doing Dirty Harry again, but he has directed movies. And we have Sylvester Stallone that has ran, you don't want to see him as Rocky again, but he has brought in some young blood to keep the trilogy going. So again, it is about keeping the trilogy alive. It's about keeping, like you said, finding or working with somebody where that experience these people have, as Clint Eastwood and Sylvester Stallone and yourself, that you can still bring that talent out into others and help them excel. I do firmly believe that. I love that. Setting goals, adapt, repeat. You said the dream might start as Mr. Olympia and end as Mr. Longevity. How do you keep your goals flexible and your purpose strong? What's your system for setting and resetting goals when life throws a curveball?
Yeah, you have to remember when you're talking to an Olympia bodybuilder whose only goal was to be Mr. Olympia, right? I'm not alone in that. I have parallel careers with other bodybuilders.
Yes.
And when we were doing that business, the Olympia only comes once a year. So you have all this other time that you've got to manage. Part of what kept me on the straight and narrow was I would make appearances where I would be on the guest posing circuit, kind of like a musician who releases an album, and then they go on tour and they perform the songs that everybody loves to listen to.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
In bodybuilding, we would do the same, and I would be posing in different countries and different shows and doing my posing routines. So I had to stay on a certain level of readiness.
Yeah.
And to do that, I couldn't get too far away from being in shape. I couldn't get too far away from the gym. So that makes the time go by faster when you're on tour, making these appearances, and it keeps you conscious of doing the work because people are going to be paying to see you.
All right, guys, quick break. If you're serious about building real muscle and getting your training dialed in, this is for you. Shawn Ray, one of the most respected legends in bodybuilding, has put together a complete program called Built with Pros. It's packed with everything you need to train like a champion: goal setting, nutrition, mindset, muscle programming, recovery, breaking through plateaus. No fluff, just the real stuff that actually works. And here's the crazy part. It's a one-time payment of just $49.95. That's what most people drop on a tub of pre-workout that fades in a few hours. It'll level up your training for life. And because you're part of the Muscle Talks crew, you get 20% off with code MTP20 at checkout. Go to builtwithpros.com, use code MTP20 at checkout, and start training smarter with Shawn Ray and Built with Pros.
Yeah, so when you're guest posing and you're traveling and you're on tour, the months would feel like weeks, and you blink and it's time to get ready for competition again. So that the repetitiveness of that year after year after year after year, it never gets old because we're traveling.
Yeah.
And we're living by the weeks. We're counting down the calendars, and you blink and a decade is gone, right? Like, wow, I went to all these countries, I went to all these places, but it made it interesting because on one hand, you have this appreciation for your work being recognized and being paid to do what I love, which is perform.
Yeah.
On the other side, the only reason I'm getting asked to perform is because I'm putting the work in the gym. I'm doing the business. I'm watching my diet. I'm doing my cardio. I'm training with the weights. I'm building my physique. And my posing routines are desirable around the world to perform in person. And so then you wind up with car payments and mortgages and bills and you realize it is a business. If I have to now go on tour,
Yeah.
I've got I can't just sit back and wait for the Mr. Olympia and take a year off and relax. And when by the time it was over for me, I didn't want to tour anymore. I didn't want to perform anymore. And I didn't want to pose anymore. So that's when I knew it was over. But the way I kept myself on the straight and narrow, obviously, was constantly booking appearances for myself so that I wouldn't get too far away from who I wanted to be. I always knew I wanted to be that guy like John Brown. I watched him as a teenager traveling the world, making appearances, signing autographs, guest posing, showing me pictures, look in the magazines. I wanted to be that guy. And when I had the chance, I never took advantage of it. I never disrespected it. Every plane ticket I booked, every guest appearance I made, every guest posing, it felt like the first one. I loved what I did. And I knew that it was taking me back to the Mr. Olympia. All those months of preparation, all those miles that I flew, all those appearances I was making, I knew that the fan base was going to wind up looking for me come to Mr. Olympia. And it's a very addictive thing to give seminars and perform and get a swelling effect of fans that were writing, right? We didn't have the internet. They weren't sending emails. I was getting letters. And my energy while I'm sitting there by myself, eating those 6 meals a day, reading the fan mail, reading the magazine comments, it was fuel getting me back to the Mr. Olympia every year. So I didn't have any time for negativity. I didn't have any break in the action. I was a machine. I don't think I was alone in that because I think the same thing applied if you talk to Kevin Levrone, if you talk to Dexter Jackson, if you talk to Ronnie Coleman. We were all being driven by the fuel of love and support we got from our fans.
And I think that's where your love affair still lies, even with this built with pros, is that engagement, the fans, the coming along for the ride and wanting to discover.
Right.
You got to believe to achieve. You said the mind has to lead, the body will follow. For someone who's doubting themselves today, what would you say to help them get back on track? These are final words here. How do you do this?
Well, it's like riding a bike, isn't it? I remember when I first started trying to ride a bike, and it was a long time ago, but you have to fall down and you have to get back up on it, and you got to take the training wheels off, and then you move into getting a driver's license, right? You first time you get the keys to the car, and you're getting behind the wheel, and we've watched people drive for so long, and suddenly it's our turn to drive, and then suddenly you get the keys by yourself and you get your driver's license, and there you are, you're driving. There you are. Eventually you get your own car and you're able to go wherever the hell you want to go. You have to trust the process, and it is a process. There's like a 12-step process in this thing of self-doubt, disbelief, being unsure, second guessing. Is this the right thing? Is this too hard? Should I be doing this? There's the exploitation feeling of posing in your underwear. There's a homophobic feeling around it because there's a lot of half-naked men staring at you, and you're talking to all these guys all the time, and then there's this semi-pornographic feel when you see these girls in bikinis sticking their butts out on stage. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in this industry that you have to navigate to then recognize and remember that you're just a number. You're just an artist. And when you think of how many people are doing what we are doing, it's very similar to how many people are picking up a basketball as a teenager, as a kid, that have dreams of being in the NBA. not everybody's going to get there, but the ones that get there, the ones that finish the race, are the ones that are diligent and passionate about what they do. I didn't get here on accident. It was calculated. It was something I wanted. It was something that I dug in deep. I held on longer than others. And even in my self-doubt, even in my unsuredness and unpreparedness, I knew there'd be another day tomorrow that I can go back and do it all over again. So this is what's going to separate the people that actually leave a footprint, or can make it to the Olympia and stay in the Olympia. It's, you have to separate yourself from the masses because you got to do things that other people aren't willing to do. Right? And not only that, you also have to believe in yourself where others don't, because I was told I was too small. I was told they were too big. I was told it's impossible. Look at those guys. And here I am.
I think they were some of the wisest words. I think the mind has to lead. You have to know what you need to do. You have to know that sometimes you have to turn up, and also you have to know where the journey or the direction or where the journey leads you, and the body will follow.
Yes.
Shawn, this has been amazing. This mind over muscle, how mental resilience builds champions. I just feel like I've learned so much here. I have so much more to ask, but I want to say thank you. Episode 2, Built with Pros, Shawn Ray, thank you so much.
All right.